Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm really excited to share with you this topic. It's been something I've been looking forward to for over a month now, a couple of months. So, because it's been something that I've had to heal from, and I didn't know. I was kind of manipulative and fearful, and then I see my friends when we do sessions experience the same things. So I figured we should address this now. Alrighty, guys, excited to learn about controlling parents versus confident parents? Yeah. So of course, yay. Of course, we all want to be that confident parent, and we can. So, anyways, let's do this. Okay, so the objective of tonight is to help you find peace in your parenting practices. Often we stress and worry if we're good enough. But I'll tell you now that if you check in with Heavenly Father, He will tell you how good you're doing. All right. So we don't have to measure against the worldly measures. And then to help you help your children as inspired by God, so that you know what to do at the right time and know when to step back. Okay, and let the kids figure stuff out. Okay, and experience their experiences. And then the third objective is to inspire you. So please don't beat yourself up. I know, because I used to be that girl. If I see myself doing wrong, I tend to beat myself up, but now I'm much better at that. So I invite you to do the same. Yeah. Okay, so the next slide. Can you guys see the slides? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful. So when I was younger, and I had 4 kids, 4 and under at one point. Yep. And that was an interesting time. We had so much fun, but then it was very difficult too. And then I really questioned what a good parent is, because I wanted to be that and I wasn't sure if I was it. There is this document called the Family a Proclamation to the World. You can Google it. And there's a little line in it, and it reads like this: parents have a sacred duty to rear their children in love and righteousness, to provide for their physical and spiritual needs, and to teach them to love and serve one another, observe the commandments of God, and be law-abiding citizens wherever they live. So anyways, this gave me guidance, okay, and it really helped me on my path. So I want to share with you that I believe that our role as parents is to bring up loving, spiritually mature, empowered, contributing, and happy adults. Okay. So we're training them to be happy adults. We're, sometimes myopic, and we're just seeing them as children. But if we hold that vision in mind, we'll be able to see the big picture and the long-term consequences. Okay. Of course, we're here to love and teach and protect and provide for our children. And remember, the love that you have for them is going to be a reflection and a sample of the divine love where you want them to go. Okay. So sometimes mums say, well, I want the kids to know I love them. And I was like that. And I learned to say, I want my kids to have a taste of that divine love through me, through my love. And then they want more from Heavenly Father, because it's not about me. Can you see the difference there? Right? Our love is a sample or a reflection of the divine love. Okay, it's not about us being a good enough mom. I want my kids to know I love them. That's fine. But more than that, it's so that they have a taste of that divine love, and then they know where to go to get more, whether I'm here or not. Okay. And especially when I'm human, right? I know that it's not sufficient ever enough, right? As much as I try, but Heavenly Father His love will create, help them thirst no more. Okay, so this was liberating to me. You do not need to give or have all the answers and solutions because God is your parenting partner. So sometimes we put undue stress upon ourselves, thinking that we need to be the one that have all the answers. And I tell my kids that before I became a mum, I didn't know how to be a mum. So I'm learning just as much as they are. So just you know that I'm human and I'm going to try, but I don't have to have all the answers. And we can go to God together and find a solution. And if we mess up, it's okay. We can try again. Okay. So it doesn't undermine your authority, when you don't have all the answers. All right. Anybody have anything to say about that? Yeah. Good. Okay. And the next one here is you do not need to be responsible for the children's happiness because they have the divine power to create that themselves, that happiness themselves. So this is the truth that I learned. You guide them and they can create it on their own. So when you offer that confidence, right, they will create it. They won't lean heavily on you to be the resource or the source of happiness. Okay. Although it's comforting to have a loving mother and everything. But, when we recognize that we're not responsible, we open up lots of opportunities for them to grow. Okay. Does anyone have any comments there? All good? Okay. So how to avoid this as much as possible, right? Yelling, getting mad, sending the kids to timeout or whatever. How to avoid that as much as possible. And I truly believe that we can get better and better. Okay, we can improve. Okay, so this is what I learned. All right, so we just want to establish that being controlling is bad. Okay, being controlling is not good at all. So this is why it's bad. It's bad because it robs our children of their personal power and confidence and fulfillment. It robs them. Okay, you don't want to be controlled, neither do they. Okay, so when parents make all the decisions, they teach their children that they are not smart enough and can't make good decisions. So when parents tell kids what to do all the time, the subliminal message that you're sending them is that they're not smart enough and they can't make good decisions. Okay. So, what we need to do is, teach them faith, not fear. So it's a difference between authoritarian parenting and authoritative parenting. Okay, authoritarian is controlling, authoritative is confident. Okay. So when you win all the power struggles, you've taught your children to be unempowered and to blame you for their troubles. Because essentially you're telling them that you have the power over their happiness. And so when they allow you to have that, or, you can't help it, then, you own that happiness. And if they're not happy, then it's your fault. Yeah. So when we win all the power struggles, we're teaching them to be unempowered and blame you for their troubles. And if you've done this and, your kids have, grown up a little bit, that's okay. We can heal. We can apply the atonement of Christ. We can start from here. Okay. And look, they probably signed up for, whatever experiences that they've had. And it was for their learning as well. But we now know better and we can do better. All right. So when we teach them to be unempowered, we are teaching them to be fearful, to lack peace and courage, to be indecisive, to be overthinkers, to be needy and blame, to complain, to entertain dramas. They need dramas in their life for some reason, and they don't know why. To fear rejection, to be dependent, and then to be passive, and other things too. But can you see now why being controlling is not good? We need to kind of understand that it's not good, because sometimes I've spoken to some parents and they're like, well, yeah, but I still need to be, because they feel like it's still important, but that's their role as a parent, to be controlling. So for me, I had to really think it through and then really understand that it's robbing my children of their power. So it's no good. So I have a reason to change. Any thoughts, any comments there?
I really like that, Jade, because I feel like it also always it teaches them to go to like an authority always to get direction for their life, as opposed to deciding what they want and going for it. And then also when you show them that you go to God and you teach them how to go to God themselves, then they start to build this relationship of trust, and like trusting themselves and trusting that God is going to respond to them whenever they reach out. And yes, to come to you for a ride to the dentist, you know what I mean, obviously, but but for like the answers, or what do I do, and those like deep questions that really like to the soul questions,
Yeah.
you know, like trusting their relationship, trusting that they're even worthy, or like you were talking about doubting yourselves, like that they're even that they can trust that they'll get an answer, that they don't need to overthink and doubt, like you were saying before. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Go ahead, Sierra.
I think one of the biggest reasons why, as an adult, as I became an adult, and even in my later adult years, that I constantly doubted whether or not I was making the right decision all the time, is because as a child, I didn't have choice of my own.
Yeah.
Decisions were always made for me. I was never given opportunities to choose or to make a mistake or anything like that. And I think that made me, as an adult, doubt myself even more.
Yeah.
Am I making the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Maybe I'm not smart enough. And I was also treated as if I wasn't smart enough to make those decisions.
Right.
So I constantly would doubt myself that I was smart enough
Yeah.
as an adult. And I know I am, but but I still doubted. So and I see that even though I was trying to do the complete opposite for my children, that I still, in a way, was really controlling, because I didn't want them to get hurt. So I got in the way of trials that they may have had. I got in the way of them learning important, valuable lessons that they would have learned had I let them go through things a little bit more on their own, rather than standing in front of and deflecting anything that may have been challenging or hard for them, or even hurtful to them. And I think that I did a disservice to my children for that reason. So I love how you've worded this, that that you can empower your children to be empowered adults, but you got to start young and letting them make decisions on their own.
Yeah.
So I wish I could go back and do that all over again.
I know, right? I know. But you've done great, and your kids are beautiful, and we move forward from this space. So
right, exactly. I'm still learning, and I know they're going to have children in the future, and I want these lessons learned like as a family, even though we're all adults now, as an adult family, so that my future grandchildren are raised by amazing parents.
Yeah, exactly. You're right there with them to do that too. So we are our own authority. So I feel like when we visualize them as adults in the future adults, and we visualize that, it keeps what we do in perspective. Okay, so sometimes when we look at them as little and they don't know stuff, we sometimes lose ourselves in that. So if we think of the big picture, we try to make it so that they are their own authority, that they don't need to ask other people for permission to be themselves, right? To help them make good decisions. And, if we're confident enough, we can give them permission. You're allowed to be mad at me. You're allowed to be angry with me. You have my permission to do that. I don't mind. You do what you need to do. But you give them the freedom to be who they are. And then, it changes the game so much. And I know this because I taught children, and I've been a teacher for many years, elementary school, and I see the kids that come into my classroom at the beginning of the year, and then I watch how I have given them permission to be themselves, and how they grew and they flourished as they get later on in the year. So anyways, it works. It really does work. Okay, love does work. So I'm going to show you some signs of controlling parents, because I didn't know I was this way. And, not that I'm all of these things, but, and then I know that some of my friends can't see that as well. So let's be self-aware. Okay. So the very first thing is hitting and hurting children is never an option, right? Never an option. My dad, he was, spanked and stuff, beat with sticks and brooms and things when he was younger. And he swore to himself that never hit his kids. And that's what he did. And he told me the story. And I really appreciated that he said, this is my lesson. And I learned that, and it doesn't help me. It doesn't do anything to me, but really damage me on the inside. So never do it to my children. Okay. There's lots better way. I had a guy, he's like, I'm a tough parent, if my kids need a spanking, it's like, yeah, they're going to get it. And I think, okay, there might be a better way, because how does hitting and hurting create a happy, confident child, right? So signs of controlling parents, we demand blind obedience and conformity. And I think sometimes we're like that because we're fearful and we don't know why we want it. Because we haven't really articulated what it is that we do want. Okay, so we're like, just do it this way, right? And these parents might say, because I said so. That's the reasoning. And that's very difficult for a child, because that means, are you older? And because you say so and you are the authority. So, that creates adults who need permission to do anything, who ask for other people for their authority. And I think, that robs us of our joy. So, these parents do not allow children to share ideas or ask questions about the parenting decisions. You can always ask your children, here is what we want you guys to do, participate and help out in the family, help do the dishes and stuff. What do you think about that? Why can't we ask that question? Right. And most of the time the kids come up with brilliant solutions, that because they have ownership, it usually works better. Okay. So ask your children for their ideas, because it stimulates thoughts and it helps them see things critically. And then it helps move what they know in their head to their heart. That's how we anchor. It's how we teach the kids to start discerning. Okay. So they're allowed to have an opinion, right, about things. So, of course, lots of adults that I meet sometimes, they just don't have an opinion about something. You just you tell me, well, is it good or bad? And then I'll just, accept it. And I'm like, no, you tell me what you think. And it's like, oh, no one's ever asked me that. Okay. So they do not let their child to have the freedom to make their own decisions. Right. And, you can be an authoritative parent. And offer them good opinion and good options. So you have good. So whichever one they choose is still good, right? And so, we can be smart that way, but then they feel empowered, right? You can have this salad or this salad or this salad, it's still salad, right? And so it's lots of options, but yet they feel empowered, okay? And then, I have met parents who complain about how parenting is such hard work, especially when they complain in front of their children. So if you are this this parent's child, and you hear your mum complain about you, being a burden, being hard work, how do you feel about yourself? You're like, sorry, I'm breathing, right? Just it makes you feel guilty, right? Or, sometimes like I have friends that go, oh, boys are so hard and boys are this way, and I wish I had girls or whatever. And I'm like, oh, don't say that loud and don't say it in front of your kids, and it's like, it just makes them feel perhaps sad.
It can make them feel like them feel unwanted or unloved.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. But it's not about us really. We really want to focus on them, right? So lack of empathy for the child. Sometimes something is so insignificant and small to you that for that child it's a big issue or it's a big deal, right? So just pause for a moment and pretend that you're that child and in that situation, right? And then empathize with that child, right? There's just little examples that you can see every day. This kid, he doesn't want to be my friend, but I want to be his friend. And as an adult, you're like, whatever, there's plenty of people to be friends with. But this kid he's just sad. And so sit in that space with him, feel it, and then help him work it out. And listen as if he's very important, not as if, but show him that he's very important and worth listening to, okay, and paying attention to. My husband's very good at this with our kids. If they come to him, he'll stop what he's doing, turn fully facing them, and then giving them his full attention. Okay, having empathy for the child. Right. So do not encourage choice or independence. So, letting the children do things on their own. And, maybe they might hurt themselves. If it's not like huge and severe and dangerous, you can say, well, do this, but be careful over here because it's hot over here. And then, but just let them know. But I wouldn't go into listing out all the options of all the consequences under the sun, right? Because that's teaching them fear. Just tell them your opinions, but you can choose. Tell them that they can choose. Dictate every aspect of the child's life. I've had a friend growing up, and her parents wanted her to be a scientist, a doctor, engineer, and stuff. So she could choose, but then she ended up doing science, and she was miserable. And after a few years, she's like, I can't do this. And she decided to do her art work, and it's graphic design and stuff. And she was so much happier there. But it just seems like the parents sent the message that she can't be wise enough to make good decisions. So just do these things, follow these formulas, and she'll be right, but she wasn't. So yeah, you don't have to dictate every aspect of the child's life, okay? Because we want the child to be empowered adults. So helping the child without being asked. Sometimes we think, oh, she's 5. Oh, she's 10. She doesn't know. I'm just going to help her. Ask, even if they're little. So show respect and say, do you need help? And if they say no, you let them struggle. I'm trying to put my pants on, it's all backwards or whatever, just let them, okay? I've had kids put their shoes on wrong and I'm like, okay, it's going to take half an hour, but let them, okay? If they want to try again, it might take longer, but let them have their power. It's more important, okay, than, getting the project done or whatever it is, okay? So believe the children, some people that are controlling believe that children should be seen but not heard, and they're not interested in the child's opinions. And you can see that that's one way to just unempower a child and to have them shrink And then there's other things that we do is manipulate through guilt induction or love withdrawal. And there's other ways to manipulate too. So if you eat your dinner, then I'll give you this chocolate or whatever it is. Still, you know, you haven't explained why they need to eat their healthy dinner, you know. So sometimes just explaining the why is sufficient motivation. Okay. I remember some, like, this is like my Vietnamese culture thing. It was like, do this, otherwise, you know, and then we'll love you, you know. And I'm like, okay, that's so manipulative. But yeah, just catch yourself, all right, because we want children to be empowered. So here's another slide. Discipline through punishment and coercion, right? How does a child that is thrown into fear and pain, you know, grow up to be just healthy and happy and confident? You know, imagine somebody hitting you and then you're like, hey, I'm such a loving person, you know. Look at me, I'm so kind. You know, it hardens them. It really hardens them. I had a guy, he formed a heart wall because his father beat him so much. So he quit feeling. Okay. So we want the children to have the freedom to be themselves. Sierra? Did you have your hand up, Sierra?
Yeah, and just gonna add to slot the line. I know every kid go through stages where they ask, but mommy, why? Or why is there why constantly? I honestly just through it'll grow. In those curiosity stages because they don't know how things work and stuff like that. So I was one of those parents constantly to say, because I said so, or because mommy knows best, you know, because mommy knows that this is what you need to do. Because I knew the answers, but I'm children, adult children now we have a good enough relationship that we can communicate and talk about different things. And one of the things that like Ashlyn has shared with me that she really wishes that I had done more of is to explain the why. Because when they were little and I would just tell them to do something, like she would want to know why do I have to do that? And I again would just turn around and say, because I said so. And all she wanted to know was, what is the reason that I have to do this? You know, whatever it was, whether it was eating something or cleaning something or whatever the question was about, she just wanted to know why, honestly. And I just thought it was a child, you know, going through a stage. Oh. So I did not realize how important that stage is for them, because they're learning and they're absorbing and everything. And sometimes it is inconvenient to a parent to stop what you're doing and explain things because you're in a hurry or whatever. But it is so much more important for them to understand and get the why. And I see that now. Yeah. So hopefully, you know, we could change that for younger children in the future. But I highly recommend following that rule, because when your adult child tells you, this is one thing I think you could have done better. You're like, oh. So yeah, well, I love that you have that relationship that you can say, yeah, you're right, you know, and that's a lot of humility. Yeah, definitely. So, well done, and well done, Ashlyn. You know, so that's so good. I remember my husband started something called the candle question. So, you know, we want to get the kids in bed, and sometimes we just need to switch off all the lights in the house and then leave the one light in the bedroom on, so they just run into the bedroom. And so we kind of like gathered them there, and then he would light a little candle, and he'll, you know, we'll have them all lay down in their bed, or like if they sit around, that's fine, but they'll stare at this little candlelight. And then he says, any questions? And so that's when they can say, why this and why this and why that, and we give them the best answer we know. And if we don't know, we say we don't know, and we'll find out, right? And, you know, it just offers them an opportunity to learn to reason. And part of the reason why we teach them to reason is so that they can learn how to discern.
They will need to discern with their heart to know what truth is. Okay, it's not with their brain, with their heart, because your heart can access the infinite intelligence of God. And, we don't need to be, pulling on our limited understanding and it's limited the number of years that we lived, right? Or how much learning we've done. So this here helps access more intelligence. And so we just teach them sitting around and saying, any questions, any whys, anything? And so the kids will ask random questions, and sometimes they don't have any questions, so they make up some questions. But we did that as a tradition, and they feel tired and they settle down and they sleep. So yeah, but now that they're older, it's a natural thing. So use negative expressions and criticisms such as disappointment and shame. So remember, shame is like telling them that they're not good enough, that they did wrong, okay, that they are wrong. But like guilt, the difference between shame and guilt is when you do wrong, you feel bad, right? But when you're shamed, that means you did wrong and that you are wrong, that you are a failure. It becomes your identity. And so when people don't separate what they do and who they are, right, it's really hard for them to own their choices and be accountable for their choices, okay? So if we separate it, we can be like, oops, my bad, whoopsie poopsie, okay? So criticizing the child's choices, I've got plenty of adults that are afraid to talk through their parents now. Sometimes when they call up and tell their parents things, they're like, brace themselves because they know the parent's gonna have an opinion about this and criticize and stuff. Well, think about it, God's spirit and the consequences will be sufficient for them to make course corrections if necessary, according to the right timeline. We don't have to follow the social timeline and the social expectations of the world. We'll learn it when we learn it. God will make sure of it. Go ahead, Sonia.
So you're talking about criticizing the child's choices. Oh, my computer's doing something weird. Hopefully you can hear me. So I think along with that is like being kind of hyper worried all the time about them.
Yeah.
And I grew up with a mom who was very, very loving, but always super worried. I'm going to get sick. You're going to, something's going to happen. I was in the Army and I deployed to Iraq, and she would always send me vitamins. Like, I'm starving. I love her. I know that that's one of the ways she shows love. But it got to the point where I would stop telling her things because I didn't want her to worry. Yeah. And so that was not good for us. I could have used her as a sounding board. It would have been helpful for me to talk through things. And it's just kind of a barrier to a close relationship to not be able to tell somebody something because you're afraid of how they're going to process it.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. My mom was kind of like that too, Sonia. So Ben and I were really conscientious, and we're not perfect, of course, we're very far from that, but we remember saying to ourselves, if our kids are curious about any of the hot topics, right, like sex or drugs or anything, we will become collected and open and let them ask questions and explore. So that was so helpful that we made that intentional choice. And emotionally, I never experienced that. So at first I was like, I'm trying to hide that discomfort, and then slowly and surely it got more comfortable, and the kids are asking all sorts of questions, and I'm like, well, it's just like this, and this is my opinion, but you can do it your way. And so we hope that we become that safe place for the kids to ask any questions and any worries, and if they do things that's kind of crazy, we don't judge them, and we just kind of I tell them my opinions about things, but I always remind them, but it's up to you. If you think that's nice, if you think that's good, so one of my daughters, she just shaved her head recently. She just felt like taking all her hair off. She had lovely long locks, and then just was like, I think it would be pretty, and she came out and ta-da, and I'm like, hey, she's like, is it all right? I'm like, yeah, if you like it. She's like, you don't like it? I'm like, I don't mind. I just like my hair like this, and you do however you want. And she's like, oh, thanks, Mom. And she's like, thanks for accepting me. And I'm like, oh, you're welcome. I'm like, phew, passed. Right. Because I did plan on just, being whatever. Not that I don't care, but it's just kind of putting myself in her shoes. Like, I remember when I was younger, trying to do my hairstyles in a different way. I was a lot more conservative, but yeah, I just wanted people to accept me as I experiment. Right. So anyways, that was good. I was really proud of myself. Did something right there. Yeah. So here with unrealistic and high standards and expectations, that is not communicated well. So when we're aware of this, we can improve, right? I had a girlfriend, she wasn't aware of this, and we were just talking, and then I helped her see this. So I'll give you an example. She's like, I just want the kids to help and my husband to help. And I said, what kind of help do you want? She's like, oh, around the house. Like I tell them, help out. And I said, okay, but like what kind of help? And she's like I tell them, it's just keep the house clean. And I said, girlfriend, you might want to just pause and have a meeting with yourself first. So what does clean look like for you? What is your expectations? And maybe you can communicate that vision to your family. And I said, for example, do you want no dishes in the sink ever? Do you want, at least the dishwasher to be run once a day? What is your standard? And she's like, oh, okay. Not that difficult. I'm like, I'm sure you're not. But what is it that you like? Right? Just kind of think about your ideal and then communicate it with your family and then sell them the vision. And she's like, oh, okay. And I gave her an example that when I wanted my kids to be clean, right, I said to them, come, I'll show you how to put the toys away. This bin has this and this bin has this, and this is what clean looks like. How do you feel? Why do we clean? And it might be, oh, so mums can be happy. Well, no. We clean so we can be organized. Our brain can be clear thinking, because sometimes we're stressed when everything is all over the place. And more importantly, so we can feel peace in our home. We can feel the Spirit of God, and we can love one another more. Do you like to do that? Do you like to feel peace? We don't like fighting or arguing, right? No, we don't. And so this is what clean looks like. If clean looks like the bed is done, if clean looks like, there's no trash on the floor, you kind of have to clarify that, okay? And just be patient and go, wait, they haven't explained that. Then explain it, okay? Be realistic and clear. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I used to have like massive arguments with my my eldest daughter when she was young about what she could wear, because she just wanted to wear princess dresses every day, and it was like skirts and dresses. That was all she wanted to wear. And I think like we had this power struggle for a while until I just decided, you know what, like, what's the harm in actually letting her decide what to wear? Like she might freeze her butt off and that's her choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to her one day, I said, look, you can wear whatever you choose to wear, but I would recommend that you choose something appropriate for the weather. And then in the mornings she would ask Google what the weather is like today, and then she would dress herself. And at first it was all like dresses and singlets and things that's like really cold. And I would say to her, you can wear that if you like, but I'll tell you it's cold today. And she's like, I'm not cold, and then she'll go out all day. And I ask her, are you cold? And she's like, yeah, I'm cold. But that's okay, because then the next day she wore something on top, or she brought a jacket just in case. Wow. But like ever since then I decided that, hey, you know what, if it's not, it's not dangerous for them, and and they're taking good care of their health, then I'm not going to intervene. Like, they can choose what they want, even if it's silly. And a lot of parents say to me, oh, I would never let my kids stress themselves because they wear like 2 different shoes.
No, that's my kids.
Yeah. But after a while, I just felt so much more peaceful just letting them decide on their own.
Yeah.
And now that they're older, I try to persuade them that, hey, if you did your homework in the morning before school, then you'd have plenty of time to play when you get home. And so now, like, my eldest will get ready really quickly. She'll wake up, she'll do her homework, she'll take care of herself, and she'll have plenty of time to play even in the morning before we even go to school. And sometimes I'm just still in bed,
Yeah, so mature. And she's still a little kid. So.
And she's the one who's like, Mom, are you done yet? We need to go to school. And she's 9.
Hurry up. It's time, Mom. Yeah.
She's like, are you done? And I'm sitting on the toilet,
Yes, wait a minute. Yeah, my child Genevieve, she was 2, and she decided to wear 2 different shoes every day for 3 months. And I was stocked in the store, ma'am, your daughter's shoes. I'm like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, yeah, she likes both. So anyway, she grew out of it. But, there wasn't that power struggle because, like Jamie said, like, what's the harm? At least she has something to cover her feet. One is a ballet shoe, one is gum boots, and we're in Arizona, so I don't know why. But, there you go. So we're living in Ohio. And then I said, hey, you guys, you might want to wear something warm. Here's a jacket if you like. And they're like, no, I'm not cold. And I said, yeah, well, I would freeze my butt off if I was in that outfit. And I'll say, we'll go outside later on. And people say, oh, whose butt is that on the floor? And then they're like, oh, that's so funny, Mom. And so they're like, okay, we want to wear a jacket. But it's like, you don't make it into a big production or issue. They don't either, because sometimes they guard their power of choice when you intervene too much. Yeah, so yeah, there you go, guys. Communicate clearly. Controlling parents have lots of rules, rigid rules based on fears. Okay, if you do this bad thing will happen. If you do this bad thing, so remember not to do this and remember not to do that. We made it a point early on, because my husband and I, we had a lot of discussion on this, read lots of books and talked about our family and how we can do it a little bit better than how we were brought up. And that was one of the things we said. We don't want rules, we want principles. Okay, and so if you ask my kids nowadays, they probably can't really tell you like a hard, fast rule, but there's lots of suggestions like, if you're going to go swimming, you need 2 people, you want to go to the bathroom, make sure there's another person coming with you, kind of thing. Just for protection. They know why. So adding arbitrary rules for control. So new rule, everyone, we're not allowed to do this. And it's like, oh wait, they weren't part of the decision making. It's, by the way, here's a new rule. I've seen that done, and that really is restrictive for the children. Okay, refusing to see from the child's perspective. This is a skill, a human skill though, to see it from the other person's point of view first, and then, then they'll be willing to see it from your point of view. And because your child's younger and less experienced, it's best that we see it from their point of view, and then later on, invite them to see it from our point of view if it's relevant. So I've seen people say, well, how do you think I feel as a parent? How do you think I feel? Right. And it's like, the child doesn't know, but the child doesn't feel loved or important. So why do you expect that child to be outward thinking? Okay, when you're inward thinking. Okay, so yeah, be careful there. Right, it believes that they're always right and have the common sense. Right, I tell my kids, like, mummy has never been a mummy until I became a mummy. So I'm going to make mistakes as I practice and learn. Are you okay with that? right? And, you know, if you give me some feedback, tell me what I can do better, just let me know. And always telling the child what to do instead of inviting the child to make the decisions, right? And then do not respect the child's privacy. That's a biggie, even though they're little. Sometimes, of course, when they're like infants, but as they get older, just the privacy of their objects, their toys, their clothes, their space. Okay, just feel it out, be inspired. All right, any questions or comments here? Sierra?
Yes, I was just going to say also, just to elaborate on the common sense part. Sometimes, especially as my children got to be older teenagers, like 15, 16, 17, I would find myself saying things like, that's just common sense, meaning you should know better, or make better choices because that's common sense. And Ashlyn, she's my first child. She's my oldest. So, and I raised all my children to have the ability to speak their mind, and she does to me a lot. And she said, there is no such thing as common sense. And I was like, yes, there is. And she's like, no, because common sense for you is based on the experiences and knowledge that you have gained throughout your entire life. That is not common sense for me, because I might not have the same experiences or knowledge that you've gained from going through something.
Mm-hmm.
So common sense is not real.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. So also, just to be careful to not expect that your children will have common sense, what we call it, because what it really is just knowledge that you've gained and experience, that you know to do things or not to do things because you know the outcome. They may not know that yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Which goes right back to explaining the why.
Yeah, the
Explain the
principle.
why, and then they'll gain that knowledge.
Yeah, so then they will apply it to different situations. When we're talking about principles, it is applied to many different situations, and it engages their intelligence and the power of discernment. So it's a lot more powerful. Okay, so you know, sometimes the parents say common sense. Maybe it means that this is courtesy, this is consideration, right? And then we really need to teach them about outward thinking. So you know, we can go on and on about that, but I think you have the gist of it. So what I suggest is to work on you first. So it's been very powerful for me and my friends when they work on them first. And so here's how we do it. So I like to, you know, ask myself some questions so I can have more faith, as in I'm calm and I'm more at peace. So when I stress over things, I think, right, this is my, you know, I take it to the pearly gates test. So I'm like, would this matter in the eternities? When I rock up at the pearly gates, are they going to say, oh, does your child know how to kick a ball into the goalie? Or, you know, did he or she, hang on, let me share the screen again. Will he or she pass 4th grade? You know, it's like, does that matter? And it's like, not really. All right. So it's not about that. It's about unity. It's about oneness of heart and mind. So I'm like, oh, okay. So if it's not important in 5, 10 years and eternity, it's not important. So don't stress the small stuff. Okay. So do the pearly gates test, guys, on things. So sometimes those things don't matter. You're this age now, you should know all these things by now. It's like, wow, what if it's God's timing and not the social expectation? Okay. So your children will change when you change, because they will feel the shift in your energy. Okay, as you are more peaceful, as you're more understanding, your whole family changes. There's more peace. Okay, you want to show them by example and actions. Focus on love and kindness and encouragement. So, are you doing that? So, for example, if you mess up and you're screaming and you're stressed and you're angry, then you can't expect your child to not be. Okay, when they are, then who do you think they learned it from? You know, so if I mess up, I'm like, okay, me, it's okay. Let's journal about this. All right, let's figure out how to do it better. Okay, And, when they see more and more of what you do, then they'll start adjusting and do what you do. Okay. So the most powerful lesson is your example and your actions. All right. If you're kind and loving to yourself and encouraging, they will be kind and loving to themselves and to each other. Okay. I would say develop a close relationship to God, because for me, I'm like, what is the right thing to do in this situation? So learn to hear God. You start with fuzzy wuzzies and you're like, oh, I feel good. But, fuzzy wuzzy is not going to get you very far. You need to connect, clear the channels until you get sermons. Okay, you get sentences, you get words, and then you get sentences, and then you get actual sermons, and then you feel that confidence in the directives. So that's like, just for me, so powerful. And teach your children to do that. Don't be in the way of your children and God. Ashley, go ahead.
So I feel like that this is really powerful because I had this friend, and she is like, she's probably 60-ish, and really was struggling, and just felt so weak, and couldn't, felt like powerless, and I was having a session with her, and I said, could you imagine, um, writing in your journal, and actually your story being the story of how, you know, how these children's mother and grandmother took her life back and changed it and gave it to the Lord at the age of 60 something, and how powerful that is. But then as I was thinking about it myself, my children, they say it to me all of the time, and I've really only been doing this for 2 years, and my daughter always comments about how happy I am, and how much better our relationship is, and literally we love each other better. And honestly, it's as soon as, like you were saying, as soon as you change, literally no one can remain the same around you. No one can remain the same. And to me, that's just so powerful. When it talks about example, that is so profound, because even if you think about the Savior, you know what I mean, wherever he went, you know what I mean, his energy, his love was felt everywhere. And because we all have access to that, and as we all, like you were saying before, it's never I want my children to feel my love, because that's actually that actually, they will feel it. It's almost like if you're holding the Savior's hand and then also holding their hand. You mean you just want to be a vessel to allow that love from God to flow to them. And to me, that has been the changes have been so profound and so immediate, because I, somebody was saying before, I was well, all dang, I accidentally broke all y'all. I'm sorry about that. You know what I mean? And the good news is it's like you said, this is a message of hope. This isn't, well, well, you screwed up. It's well, now you get to make it better through and the changes are almost immediate, and it is so beautiful. And I am so grateful, just in days and weeks and then months. And it's really, it's exponential. The change is exponential.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for that, Ashley. I see it in my friends and their families have more peace, and I'm just so grateful that we are able to do those changes and make those changes. So yeah, so give your children space and time to grow through their own experiences. So I say, check in with God, and there's times that you need to step back and let your kids struggle. And you say, but why can't you do it the easy way? Well, do they need to do it the easy way? Sometimes we need to do the hard way, because we learn through our experience. And sometimes the most painful experiences that we have are the most profound lessons of love, right? So if you are inspired to jump in, then do so. But if you're not inspired to jump in and help, step back. Do not come between them and God. Okay, there's times when my children, they struggle with something. I don't know what to take for the next semester, what subject or whatever. They say, well, you need to pray about that, and you need to pick your best and feel your heart, and trust your gut, and then just make your best decision. But make a decision now, and then look through it and just feel each subject and just think, okay, is that right, Heavenly Father? Is that right, Heavenly Father? Because as a mom, I know some things, but what I know may not be best for them. So, I've learned to step back. And there's times that they struggle with friendship and whatever, their own personal things, and I'm not inspired to jump in and help, and that's fine, because I'm not responsible for their happiness. I'm responsible for guiding them to connect to their divine self. Okay, so that was much more powerful, because we don't rob them of the reward of their own accomplishments. Okay, so remember, discomfort and failure is an option. Okay, because the atonement covers it, and it's going to be compensated. And so what we want to do is, help our children have the experiences that they're meant to have, right? So if you scoop them up, sometimes you extend their pain. You hold back the lessons that they can learn, right? So sometimes it's not helpful. Rosie, go ahead.
Jade, I just want to share a couple of things, because my daughters are at 17 and 14, and it's been a very big road, because I've brought into life two very free spirits who are very strong, and they have more courage than I can honestly say I ever did have as a child. And I'm so grateful, because number one, you are so right. One of the things I found as they were young, and I had to do this all myself, was that they have a father that's very controlling. And it was not my idea of bringing them up, but I have to choose that they chose him as their father and me as their mother. So one of the biggest lessons, and me working on myself, is knowing that I'm an imperfect mother. I have no perfection. And my daughters, I can honestly say, are still going through big challenges. My daughter had a lot of bullying going on, and I did want to do something about it. But do you know, she told me, no, I will fix this. And she has. And I have another daughter who's had some really bad, made some very wrong decisions. And I'm not saying my children and our lives have been perfect. They have not been perfect at all. And we haven't made I haven't made the perfect decisions. But I can tell you, as sitting here right now, I feel very proud, because what has given us those decisions that may not be the right decisions, and the times that I've had to sit back and watch my daughter cry and be so in a lot of pain, has given her courage and me. And I can honestly share that and say that I've still got a long way to go, a long way to go. I know that, but I can feel that the courage in me is stronger because of what we have been through as a family.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so bonding. And that discomfort, when we work through it together, you show the children how to face challenges and grow through obstacles and things. So that's good lessons. Okay, really good lessons. We don't enable them. So I love that you pointed that out, Rosie. And then the other thing is promote community, collaboration, and joy. Sometimes we know what we don't want. We don't want the kids to like be this and do that. But what do we really want? So I sat down and I write every single week. I write for years and years. And I'm like, this is what I want. And when I read back on my things, I just think, oh gosh, I'm repeating myself so many times. But it's sort of like confirming and then kind of clarifying and then understanding all my thoughts better. So what I mean about this is we will find our greatest degree of joy when we're in a community, when we're collaborating and we're joyful. So here's an example. When we say, oh, we need to have a party for the end of school year, what do you think? And they're like, yay, great idea. And I said, okay, so, here's what I visualize, or, I used to do that, but now the kids do it. I'm like, who wants to take charge? And, this year was my 15-year-old, right? And she's like, okay, so why don't we do this and this and this? And we're like, yay. And then it's like, who wants to do what? And so here's like, I want to do this, and I'm going to make the sandwiches, and I'm going to do this. And they volunteer, instead of you going, you do this, you do this, you do this. And then it's like, being upset and angry and then just problematic. And then it comes to a point where no one leaves the kitchen until things are done. They're like, okay, can I help you with that? Can I help you with that? Teaching the kids that is just so beautiful. And I tell stories like when I grew up and in Australia, where all my aunties came together, my mom, and everyone just sat there. Stood there in the kitchen, chopping, cooking, and preparing for a New Year's party or whatever. And they're laughing and they just get to know each other and they catch up. And it was part of the celebration, right? And that's a community. And when we need something from each other, we can call on each other because we've been there, we've been connected, and we have that social collateral. Right. And I tell them the value of that. And so it's not like your day to do the dishes, your day to cook dinner. It's like, we're doing this together. Who's going to lead this project today? Okay, so show them the vision and then ask who wants to volunteer, and sometimes they can lead it. So that's just some ideas. But I just want to go through here and help you see signs of confident parents. Okay, the stories and the examples will really help. So parents that guide their children by teaching principles clearly. So, even, when your children want to help with it in the kitchen, you're like, oh, it'd be so much faster to just do it and they get it over with. But it's not about that. It's not about eating and filling our bellies. We're teaching them the skills of cooking, spending time. So building memories and associations, right? And then teaching them all sorts of things when you're spending time with them. So it may take longer, but it's more valuable. So we say things like, you need help with your homework. Okay, great. And if they do, we can sit down and talk. And sometimes they're like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to do this no more. I'm like, that's fine. You have a choice. And then I ask them questions like, why do you go to school? And it's like, well, so I can get good grades. Why do you need to have good grades? So I can go to college. What do you need to go to college? So I can get a job, really? And I said, what is it that you're really doing, when you get a job and stuff? Do you really need to have an education? Well, I guess not always. And then we think about it and then we come to a conclusion. Hang on, we are educated, we go to school, we learn things because the glory of God is intelligence. And I want to be like God and I want to be intelligent. And it's like, booyah. And when my kids learned that, it was life-changing because they went beyond what the teachers taught them at school. They wanted to study extra things at home. They, bought programs, bought textbooks, separate, different topics, different things. And it's like the glory of God is intelligence. And they value their learning, and then they check their own grades. And I don't know why it happens to my my Genevieve. It happened like every year. She has at least one or two situations where the teacher forgets to put her grades in or whatever. And then she checks her grades and then she's like, I better talk to this teacher. And she turned the C into an A or whatever. And I'm like, brilliant, because she owns it. And I wouldn't have known that, why do you have a C in this class, right? So, when they own their responsibility because they know why, it's empowering for them. Okay. So here we are, trusting that the children are intelligent and that they figure it out on their own. You give them this powerful gift of confidence. So you say, darling, can you do it on your own? Do you need help at all? And she's like, nope, I can do it. And great. So oftentimes if I show them how to do it a couple of times, and then they're off. And even if they mess up, they're like, okay, I can fix this. Right? Give them that. I'm sure you can do this. Go for it. Right? And make it safe for them to make mistakes, because it's not about the unconditional love. It's not. It's because of the unconditional love. That's why we make it safe for them to make mistakes. We just still accept them even if they make mistakes. Decide today that you're going to accept your children even if they make mistakes. Okay? It's not like doing bad is being bad. It's not that. Okay? So I was giving an example of, pretend that you have a very limited edition collectible doll, I guess maybe Barbie doll, whatever. And then your Barbie doll, you put, really ugly clothes on that Barbie doll, and you're like, oops, that's a mistake. So now, because of that mistake, she's not limited edition anymore. She's no good. You say, well, just take the clothes off and change it up. It's like, you are a child of God. You are beloved and you have divine potential. You messed up. It's okay. Do it again. It doesn't change who you are. Okay. So that's very important to clarify. So focus on positive, joyful outcomes of the correct choices. So, celebrate. You did great. Focus on that. Instead of, oh, how I messed up, you might have done 99 things great and then one thing bad, and you're like, oh, I suck. Look at how this one thing I messed up. So look around. You might end up, seeing that you can do so good and you've done so well with so many things. I suggest help your child become heart-led and faith-filled. So I teach my children the skill of feeling their heart and trusting their gut, and then taking a step forward and then allowing their minds to be filled with light, divine light, for wisdom. And then that starts to align with their heart. Okay, so those are the skills. Feel your heart. What does your heart say? You go pray. I go pray too. We'll come together and we'll see what we got. Okay, you got something. I got something. Here's what I learned. Right, so much more powerful. Okay. Respect the children's privacy. That's just a given there. Speak politely and respectfully. Okay. Thank you. Pleases. Be civil. If you want your child to be civil to them. Okay. Choose the level of being you want to. Sometimes even if people are rude, we're civil because we respect ourselves. Okay. And seeing things from the child's perspective all the time. Right. If it's important to them, it's important to you. Right. Ask for their opinion, ask for their ideas. Like I said, they will blow you away sometimes. Okay. And there's times that we have to allow natural consequences, okay, to be sufficient lessons without adding guilt and shame and pain. So if your child forgets, their homework or something, just something, even if they mess up, don't bring it up again and dig it up again and remember the time and remind them the time. And I've had women that I've done sessions with, and over, they're like, oh, my dad keeps reminding me how I messed up when I was 15 and whatever it is, or, when this happened. It's like, oh my goodness, let it go already, right? The natural consequence of that lesson is sufficient. If you touched fire and you got burnt, right, that pain on your hand, right, is sufficient. Don't add more, lemon and, whatever onto it, making it worse. Because what you're saying is, you won't remember this lesson, so I must make it super painful, right? Why? It's not necessary, okay? So just treat mistakes as accelerated learning, keep going, move forward. Okay, think in terms of the child's best interest, the long-term benefits, not the myopic views, right? This is so important, you guys. So, things like, do this, not just because it's going to keep your room clean, but you're going to grow up and be a clean and organized adult, right? Do this, not for today, but as you get older, it'll help you with this. Okay, so there's always these long-term benefits that you can see, so that, you see things in the proper perspective. Ask permission before helping your child, right? Authentically share your own weaknesses and your struggles with your children. My kids love hearing stories of when I was younger, whatever, all the mistakes, the crushes even. I had a crush on this boy for this 2 weeks or whatever. And, they want to hear those stories, right? So, when I had my period, I was so embarrassed or whatever, just share. and then they will relate to you, and then it gives them permission to share their worries as well. Okay. Confident parents believe the child is right at times, and that you are wrong sometimes, and you can say sorry. Okay. And confident parents don't have a lot of rules, right? Because they have lots of principles. And then these parents feel the privilege of being a parent. Do you feel privileged to be the parent to your child? Okay, then your child won't feel guilty being themselves. And we enjoy and appreciate every stage of parenting. I hear parents say, "Oh my gosh, you have teenagers, I feel sorry for you," or, "Oh my gosh, the kids are so young, I wish they were older." I think there's such beauty in every stage, so you can appreciate all the stages. Okay. Use positive, empowering words and instruct them, encourage them. So sometimes if your child is younger, instead of, don't be loud, don't jump around, you say, "Why don't you come over here and play with these things? Let's be quiet." Just tell them the positive of what to do, not what not to do. Okay. And you'll find that it's so much more direct and powerful. And then, a confident parent believes the child has equal say in the family affairs, has an equal say. So before you move, before you do stuff, talk to them. Even if, you're just leaving your child to a babysitter. Like my friend, she like sneaks away. She drops her kids off, at the grandparents, and then sneaks away. And then the child wanders around like, "Where's my mom?" Right? Just say, "Hey, this is what we're doing today. I'm going to leave, but I'll be back." Okay. When the long hand touches this number, I'll be back. Or whatever it is, just communicate clearly. So when we moved countries, when we moved homes, we talked to our children, told them why we're moving, the pros and cons, ask them how they feel, work through their pros and cons list. What my child, oldest child, she said one of her cons was like, I don't get to sing at the opera house anymore. I don't get to continue to be a prefect of the school anymore. I'm like, yeah, that sucks. That really sucks, And she's like, she cried it out. And then she's like, yeah, it's okay. But the pro is we get to be together as a family. I get to make new friends. And then she worked it out all on her own. I just guided her through. And it was the sounding board. And that was such a powerful opportunity to teach your children stuff. Any comments? Good. All right, just a few more.
Jade,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
really like that. Yeah, I really like that. So like when we moved, we were very prayerful about it. And I remember talking with my kids because we had, well, you were part of it, this big, beautiful community that we lived. And so like, but they didn't ever wonder, and they trusted us, and they had prayed, that they'd find friends quickly and things like that. And so I feel like that even in like in your decisions, like they're on board too. And they, like, I don't believe in blind obedience, but sometimes we're obedient because we trust like God, you know what I mean? Like we trust God and we're obedient even though we don't understand. But the reason why they trust you is because you have shown them that like your motives and why you do things, but also you have spent that time explaining things, and so they understand, and they know that maybe if like I say to like let's go right now or something, that you will tell them, and because they respect you and have that love and that trust, I feel like that it's trusting that God has them, but that they're going to be fine because they trusted you, but also because they trusted God.
Yeah, that's so good. Yep, exactly. You earn that trust. So just a few more slides, guys. And this is very important. So please pay attention. This will really change your life. Teach your children to feel the feelings. Feel their feelings. because the feelings will give us clues of our thoughts and our beliefs in the subconscious. Our feelings drive action. So if you want people to do stuff, you help them feel positive, inspire feelings, inspire their heart, and the feelings will drive the actions. Okay. And, you know, for me, I feel like everything that we experience, you know, the feelings, positive or negative, it's, you know, for our good. It's faith promoting opportunities, right? So when we find a negative emotion or feeling, we find the negative thoughts and we find the negative belief, and then we can make positive changes and strengthen our faith. And then it says here, arise, go thy way, thy faith has made thee whole. I like this because it's not just you're healed, but whole means, to me, a whole new ball game, right? That means you have great relationships with other humans. You are at peace with yourself. It's beyond the physical healing, okay? So mind, body, spirit, you're whole, okay? So here's some examples I want to share with you. Not examples, but just points. So it's important to feel their feelings so that they can be in tuned to themselves and be self-aware. It's beginning of self-awareness. You know, talk about it. So use words to describe feelings, right? So my friend's like, oh, my boys, they fight, you know, they're just little toddlers. They fight and they hit each other. What do I do? And I said, well, maybe because they don't know what they're feeling and they're taking actions, right? So what if you take them aside, you know, separate them and put them, you know, take a child into a bedroom and have a chat and say, are you feeling angry? You know, and the, you know, child probably doesn't know what that means yet. So you say, angry is like this. And then if you're angry, you can hit this pillow. So go ahead and go angry, 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 you know, and yell into the pillow and, you know, beat up this bed or whatever. And then, that's angry. Can you say angry? The word is angry. So when you feel angry, here's what you can do. And here's another thing you can do. Smell this lavender oil, right? So I had a friend, her son is very, very severely autistic. And he's actually, you know, a big kid. So he can pick up furniture and he can throw the furniture when he's angry and people get hurt. And so they taught him, when he's angry, when you're feeling this way, use this oil, frankincense, say frankincense. And so my friend was like, Jade, he was adorable. So something didn't turn out right and he was angry and he felt that feeling and he knew that feeling and was yelling out, frankincense, frankincense. And the whole family's running around finding his frankincense, right? And so he responded better than picking up furniture and throwing it at people and things, right? So we can train our kids the same way. If something happened and we're sad or we're worried or we're anxious or we're scared, say, Mommy is scared at this point. Mommy's scared today. I'm anxious today because I feel like I need to do all of these things. And you can model how you resolve your feelings and your worries and your stresses and your fears. It's no good holding on to your worries because then you're teaching your children to worry. You're teaching your children fear. All right. So if you go, oh, let me feel it fully, understand it. And then this is what I do to clear from it, to release it, to resolve it. Then your children will have this skill. There's times that I was like really scared about something and I'm like, girls, come in here. I'm worried about this here. I'm really scared right now. Can we all kneel down and pray for this person? All right. And they all held my hands and I said, I'll say it first. And then when I'm done, they're like, my turn. And then I'm like, yep, your turn, you pray. And we pray. And then my turn too. I'm like, yep, you can pray too, right? So they know that that's what they do, whether Mummy is there or not. That's my test. You know, when, you know, if I'm gone on a trip or I'm gone out of this earth, I'm gone. Can my children survive without me? Do they have the skill right here, right now, at this age? Do they have the skill to feel and resolve their feelings and to think clearly and to hear God and to be obedient? So I constantly work on this focus, okay? So learn to put words to feelings and teach your children words for their feelings. So one time I said to my daughter, it looks like you're frustrated, Emily. Oh, she learned that word very quickly. The next day, she's like, Mommy, I want this and this and this. And I'm like, in a minute. And she's like, oh, I am frustrated with you, mommy. And I'm like, what? She learned that word already. Good job, right? So teach them the words, because when they have words, they don't need to act out and, you know, throw a hissy fit or tantrum or whatever. They will have more power, okay? So guide your children to resolve it better. I have plenty of tips here that I can't tell you all today, but you know, there's skills out there that we can learn to resolve for ourselves, and then you model it. You model it aloud. You think aloud, you know, not manipulative, not kind of like pushy, but you're like, okay, then this and this. My kids watch me sometimes, and I'm in front of the mirror. I'm like, I can do it. I'm good enough. I can do it. I'm good enough. And they're like, oh yeah, let's do that dance too. And they join in. I'm like, thanks, girls. Thanks for joining me. But it's me. You know, they watch me, and so they do it the same. We're on vacation now, visiting our friend in Orlando. Well, not Dora, really. And my daughter, she's like, I brought my oils and I brought my affirmation cards, and I've been doing it every night. And I'm like, you know, even when we're on vacation, she's like, I got this, right? That's what we want, okay? So the other thing too is when your child is feeling certain feelings, when you let them feel it fully, help them discover the solution. So guide them through those skills so that they can not be frozen by fear, okay? Because that will not help them in the world, okay? So, you know, nudge them, give them, you know, some ideas. How do you feel? Why do you feel that way, right? And then let them discover the truth, because it gives them the reward of accomplishment, all right? If we say, well, here's the solution, just do this, right? Because we just want to get on with it, then it robs them. It robs them of that reward, that euphoria of, oh, I did it myself. I figured it out. Yay, me. Okay. So I hope you get the message, right? So I teach a course, and I show people fear emotions, faith emotions, and then, you know, kind of identify which emotions are which. And these are so helpful. When you learn it for yourself, you'll be able to learn it for your children. Okay, guys, right? There's different words for the different vibrations, which is emotions, really, okay? So when you get this down, you open a whole new world for your children. You know, they'll be able to communicate with themselves, with their spouses, with their friends, so much better. For me, one of my biggest tools is pray for the enlightenment, be open to receiving guidance from God. And the Lord God will teach you how to be a better parent. And if you're saying, how am I doing? And if God says, you're good enough, then you say, oh, thank you. And if you're not their favorite parent today, it's still okay, right? Because it's not up to them. If God says you're okay, right? And the world has no say. The world has no say, okay? So one time this lady, she's like, I thought when I first met you, Jade, you were, a neglectful parent. And I'm like, that's okay. I didn't hurt at all, because it's not up to her, right? It's up to God. So connect to God. He will inspire you how to do your parenting work, okay? So the other thing too is remember, teach your children to connect to God and get out of the way. Do not get in the way between you and, God and them. Don't be in the way. Okay, let them go have alone time with him. There's times when things are stressful for my kids, and I'm like, have you prayed about it? No? Well, why don't you go ahead and pray about it, and then we can chat after. All right, and a lot of times it's resolved. All right, so I use essential oils, and I teach people how to use essential oils in my courses to help guide our conversations, help us know what we're really thinking and feeling on the subconscious, give us words, but then also it is a scaffolding. It kind of upholds us as we move forward and retrain and recondition and reassociate our subconscious. Okay, so it's super powerful. If you haven't experienced essential oils and these things, please contact the person that's sent you this video, or contact me, and I'll help you understand this, and it'll be a phenomenal skill for you. Another thing I teach people is the childhood regression, right? Even my children, guys, I've taught people this. Even my children, I try to praise them and help them. They still, being young, they sometimes still misinterpret the world, right? So my oldest daughter, for example, she she had three sisters, right? She was 4 and she had 3 sisters already. She was still a little kid. And, you know, some adults, and I'm sure I said it too, said, you're a big sister now, right? You help mommy take care of your sisters, right? And you feel like that there's no harm in that, right? Well, she took it like this. She took it like, you're not allowed to want anything anymore. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to be needy. You need to figure it all out on your own because these kids need mom and dad more. That's how she interpreted it, right? So when she got older, you know, she had some emotion come up, and then we had to do something called the childhood regression technique. So we acknowledged and addressed and accepted some of the things, and she discovered that she needed to talk to her 4-year-old self and say, you're okay, you can cry. You're okay, you can ask mommy for help. You know, little things like that. And we never knew. So I teach people this skill as well. So if there's things that need to be resolved, it's resolvable, okay? So guys, for me, I love teaching people how to heal themselves and not only heal, but maintain good health. So I'm going to give you a gift tonight. So here's a course called Living Natural Wellness Lifestyle with Faith. And if you put this code in, sorry, let me go back. If you put this code in, you get 50% off, okay? And it just helps you learn how to use the oils and understand the body, right? And as you heal and cleanse yourself, you're better at being peaceful. You're better at having mental clarity. And of course, that leads to better parenting, okay? So when you're not stressed and angry and, you know, anxious and stuff, you think clearly, and then you'll be able to, you know, be a better person. I also teach the Energy Balancing with Faith course. Guys, it's very affordable. So if you go to this website, jbom.com, EBWF, Energy Balancing with Faith, you can choose a 1-time or 3-payment plan. And, you know, there's videos and quizzes that you can watch, easy to do, but it'll help you learn all those skills that I was talking about, okay? So just videos to follow. All right. So here's an invitation for you guys. If you like what you heard tonight, you know, there's more juicy stuff where that came from. Okay, so we have retreats, we have community online that we meet on a regular basis and talk about these deep and meaningful things. This picture always brings me so much joy, these pictures here, because I feel like I found soul sisters from all over the world that care about the things I care about connecting to God and doing things right according to God, and loving on their children and protecting the family, right? And so we learn from each other and we teach each other, and then we support one another and we help each other apply the principles that we learned, and we keep practicing. We need a community to help remind each other. I need this community as much as they need me, right? My friends are constantly encouraging me and cheering me on, and it's made a huge difference in my life. So guys, I'm inviting you, if you want to, join our community, okay? Hang out with us, get to know us, help us get to know you, and you know, be a part of this. So if you're listening to this and you feel like, I need a session, like I think there's a lot of stuff that I need to resolve, book a time with me or one of the friends on my directory, and we're happy to help you, okay? But you know, that's all from me tonight. I just wanted to share with you these things, and hope that was helpful to you. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Maybe I should stop the recording and then you won't feel so shy. All right, so I'll stop it right now.